Today, there are hundreds of thumbnails that you can run across. Some are insane, and but in this tutorial, I will cover the essentials for thumbnails and have your thumbnails look better than before. So, let's get into the basics.
Alright, now we're on the main menu. And first we will go to our mods and check if we have two main mods. First, NPC Studio, and second, Iris for shaders. And NPC Studio is basically the better version of the old NPC Studio that makes your workflow in the thumbnail editor way easier. So now, let's create a world. Now I'm going to select the world to be creative, and I'm going to have the game roles on spawning to be all off. And then it's optional, but I'm going to turn off advanced time of day and weather. And you can also change the time of day inside of the thumbnail editor with NPC Studio. Alright, so let's create the world. Alright, now we are in. I want to find but I'm just going to find a good area. And I'm going to put up my reference right now on screen as to what I'm trying to achieve. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to pick this block. Alright, I got some snow. I'm going to layer this out so it looks decent.
And if you liked the video so far, please consider liking or subscribing. It's up to you. And you can also check the description where I also put the overlays and the PSD that I use in this tutorial. So make sure you check out the description. And yeah.
So I'm going to get the NPC one from the NPC Editor. I'm going to place one down. And I'm going to place, and I'm going to change the skin to be my skin. Alright, now I got my skin. I'm going to place it in. And boom, there we go. And then I'm going to have this other skin. Alright, so now we're both here. And I might put a cape on just because. And I'm going to give him a cape. Alright, now that we both got capes, I'm going to make the crowd at the bottom. So basically I'm going to have the attributes of Steve, and I'm going to make him have a I'm going to make him a running animation for this amount of frames. And I'm going to give him some armor. Okay, now we should be able to enchant his armor. So boom, 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 boom. And now we want him to have a netherite sword. So we're gonna put this here and we're gonna make it enchanted. There we go. And it's optional, you can have trims on them too. But for the ease of the thumbnail, I'm just gonna keep it without trims on these background players. And then now the cool thing I can do is that I copy and paste these guys. And so for now, for this part, I'll just be trying to duplicate the players on the hill. Alright, and the way you duplicate the crowd is basically going into here, and then make sure you have a specific count. So what I did was I did 20 by 20 in a square, and I offsetted it to be something like this. And then I kind of scattered it across the mountain, but all you really have to do is this. And you can ground snap if it's on a mountain or hillside, and it's really easy. And you can also have variants, so there can be like this skin with like full netherite armor and maybe a mace and a shield. And they can have capes if they want, and the weight can be adjusted. So I'm gonna have some and then be like 43% is gonna be like that. And then boom. And then as you see, all the variants will start spawning, and it will make the crowd be diverse. And there we go, we have our crowd. Now it is a little bit laggy because we could have made block entities, but here we go. Alright, and now we create NPCs, and look at all the NPCs coming in. And pretty much all the NPCs are just flowing in. And so now I'm just trying to adjust the camera into the position of the players. And here on the world tab, we're going to time override so that we can get the perfect shade of day. And then so right here should be pretty good. And then the strength of the glint, it depends. I'm just gonna have this be like normal-ish, and then I'm gonna freeze the animation of the glint so that it's frozen. And then you can override the sun if you have like shaders and stuff. Like right now I'm choosing to have no shaders on this one, but if you want to, you can have the shaders be you can have the sun be overridden and your shaders also gets affected. And then you can also do this with the nighttime too. And then I'm just gonna have the clouds freeze just in case. And then now I'm going to edit the camera a little bit more. And now we get to the exporting part, which is right under the camera tab and the last button where it says batch screenshots. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Iris and then shader packs, and then I'm going to download the shaders, and I'm going to download two main shaders, and DMS is depth map shaders and MMS is no map shaders. Alright, now I'm in Photoshop. And pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop all the screenshots that I took. And the way I got the terrain separately was selecting the terrain by itself. And the way I got the players separately was downloading no map shaders so that I can have a white mask around the players. And this red, green, and blue layer over the terrain is the shaders so that I can have shadows and light really easily. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the side of the blocks with color range, and I'm going to pick the color from the image, and I'm going to increase the fuzziness so that I can get the most area. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the map, and I'm going to create a new layer over the terrain, and then I'm going to select a dark brush and shade over the side of the blocks so it gives that shadow. And right now the opacity is way too high, so I'm going to lower the opacity. And that should be good. And then now I'm going to do the opposite, so I'm going to select the green part with color dodge, and then now I'm going to create a new layer over the terrain, but instead of this time it's going to be white. And then for this mode I'm going to select overlay and then turn down the opacity, and this should be good. Alright, now let's drag in the rest of the players and do the same thing. Alright, I dragged in the rest of the players, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in my depth map and layer that over everything. Alright, and now the best part is we need to go to the bottom on the side and press solid color. Now I'm going to make this sort of a lightish blue tone, and I'm going to press my depth map layer. I'm going to go to channels and then make sure the depth map is on the top of everything. And then right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to control click this, and then once I control click this I need to press on the white box next to the colored layer, and then I need to do control I. And then now you can mess around with the depth map layer, and you can change the color, you can increase the intensity. And the way you increase intensity is by going to image, adjustments, and then curves, and then you can play around with the level. And I'm going to select camera raw filter, and now I have some presets already for the camera raw preset, and this basically gives me the best shading for most of these thumbnails. And I'll throw up a quick replay of the settings for the camera raw because I didn't show it right here. Yeah, I'm just gonna put this on the player, and I'm gonna put this on the other player as well, and then I'm gonna put this on the crowd as well. Alright, next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the player, I'm going to double click the layer of the player, and then I'm going to mess around with inner glows and inner shadows so that I can get that effect that is actually inside of the environment. So this is all optional. It's up to you. You can follow along if you want, but it's all preference, because the way I get highlights and the way I get inner glow is way different from the way other people do it. So And so right here, I'm going to create a new layer over the player, and then I'm going to go on the side and select the hexagonal lasso tool. And then I'm just gonna go around the edges of the side that's being affected most by shadow in the scene. And it's all dependent on the environment you're seeing. So it might not be the same. Okay, now that I added shadows, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the selection tool, and I'm going to use this part of the selection tool to select the netherite parts of the plate. And basically the reason I'm doing this is so that I can adjust the hue for the netherite to make it more purple. And then now you can adjust the layer type to be whatever you want the layer color to be. It can be overlay or it can be soft. Now to add the glow part at the end of the spear, I just put a light glow brush with 0 hardness, and I changed the layer type to be linear dodge. And then now I'm adding a separate sky. You can do this if you want, but for most thumbnails, if you already have a good view of the sky, it doesn't matter. So I'm just adding a sky to this, and then I'm also adding more layers to it. So I'm adding a snow layer, and then I'm also adding this glare to the top. And then I also add this overlay on the top of it as well. And this is optional if you need this. And finally, I'm going to add highlights. And the best way to add highlights, in my opinion, is to get a hard brush, make the opacity 100, and then make the brush size 4. And then control click onto the edges of the places that have the most light, or that will receive the most light. And that way the highlights will look natural and the best. And so here's a quick time lapse of that. And now for export time. And all you have to do for export is go to File, Export, Export As. And then make sure you have PNG because that's the highest quality. And then make sure you select bicubic, sharper, or automatic. And since thumbnails have a size limit, I would rather just go with bicubic automatic. And there you go.